Welcome. I'm Dave Putz from JKP Holdings. This week, Nathan Turner and I sit down to discuss one of the most crucial parts of due diligence for note investing and real estate investing, property values. Most investors order what they call BPO, a broker's price opinion, and they count on it for accuracy. Unfortunately, not all BPOs are accurate, and most of the time they aren't. And most of the time aren't filled out by brokers. So what we do today is sit down with Mick Kuehn, who is a BPO agent, but also a real estate investor. So he knows both sides of it. We break down what to look for in a BPO. How do you know if it's accurate at all? How do you know if the agent who did it actually knows anything? And if you listen at the end, you're going to find some tidbits of how we do things to improve accuracy, reduce costs, and actually get some local knowledge. So enjoy. But we also have some really exciting news that if you haven't seen it yet, we put our email out last night. We'll be posting more about it. And we're sorry a little bit late on things, just August got away from us. Starting on September 20th, hopefully that date will be in stone. We'll be hosting a 10-week kind of a junior mastermind group. We'll be hitting topics every single week and diving intense. This is for people that have taken a beginner course, have some knowledge about notes, right? And are looking for that in-between stage, right? Where you may have bought 2 or 3 notes and just find yourself lost, or took a beginner course, have a good grasp of it, but want to go to the next level. So you'll be networking with us, learning from us, but also networking with other investors that are going to be in the same kind of level as you are. This isn't for those who've done 40, 50 deals. This is more for those beginners / middle advanced people. And we'll put the link in the bottom, but it's on my website and everything else. And our emails went out.
Yeah, maybe you took that course and you thought, oh, this is really cool, but are still a little bit nervous because you don't feel like you've got it. We're going through all kinds of different scenarios, all kinds of different things, including homework, so that you can get some of that experience as we do the course, so that you can get out there and
our focus is confidence, being confident in note investing and buying, right? Taking the basic knowledge, taking the next step, and then circulating with the network of people. And we're also going to be sharing resources and tools that neither one of us has ever shared publicly.
Right.
So it's going to be really cool. So if you're looking for that stuff that you said, Dave, have you asked for it, or Nathan, and we haven't, well, we'll be unlocking some of that, most of it during this course for those who jump in there. So they definitely take a look at that. We got some people tuning in from Bobby Quinn, some Colorado people. Feel free to put chats in the chat box. Some people are on LinkedIn, some people are on Facebook groups, some people are on a Facebook page. I'm trying to juggle it all, so hopefully I don't get distracted. Well,
all that.
Note investing due diligence is probably one of the more difficult areas of note investing, right? And understanding all that. You have the tape data, figuring out your bid. Then you have the post, which is managing, which is also struggling. But your due diligence period is a few key items, right?
And it's a short time.
Yes.
But you've got to get it right.
Yes.
And so it's not to put any pressure, but you got to do it right. And if you don't do it right, you can get hung and into some trouble.
So you have certain things like the data on the property, right? You have the numbers, which you can figure out. Then you have the O&E, which is your collateral title report. O&E is your knowing the fact of what the taxes are, what liens on the property. Mm-hmm. You also have the collateral file, make sure it's secure and all stuff. But there's one little big feature that we're discussing today, which is the value of the property. And industry standards is to go get this thing called a broker's price opinion. In other words, a BPO. So we're gonna discuss.
And we've had this discussion, Dave and I, a few times about BPO or no BPO, or the validity of that document, that report. I'm a big BPO guy. However, you can't take it at face value, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, I think for me, understanding that BPO does make a difference, right? We'll be talking to Mick today about this. Let me bring him in to the fold as we discuss this world of valuing a property. Mick, it was part of our weekly mastermind group, and he mentioned that I didn't know about him. He was a BPO guy. But before we get too far, Mick, welcome to our Friday show. And can you share a little bit about who you are? How did you become into real estate in general? Give us some of your background.
Sure. Hi, Dave. Hi, Nathan, and everybody listening. Hello. How is everybody? Well, Janet and I got started. Actually, my wife, Janet, got started in real estate in 1999 because we bought a house. And we moved to South Carolina, and we bought a house. And she saw the closing statement and said, "My God, that's a commission. I can do this. I know I can do this." So she went and got a real estate license, just like, I'm sure a lot of people do the same thing. Back then, the market was really seriously hot and people were selling things, but Janet didn't want to jump into the traditional real estate market, so to speak, which was driving customers around, showing houses and things like that. What she wanted to do was basically work desktop type of work. Okay. And she found a company that told her about BPOs. And they said, they're basically very informal, almost appraisals, but they're not. They're just price opinions based on the data that you have in the market. So she started doing those, and she did enough of those. Well, you remember back in 07, 08, what was coming down the road. Okay. So she was doing those reports, and a lot of those reports were done for some of the big banks and lenders who were looking at a tsunami of non-performing notes coming down the pipe. So make a long story short, some of these reports got into the hands of these people in the big banks, and they called her and said, "Hey, listen, can you handle the REOs for us?" And if you know my wife, Janet, she is one of those people who says, "Absolutely, I can handle 100 of them." And then we figure it out.
Yep.
Okay. And that's exactly what happened is the REO and the BPO business, just like the note community, is not that big. So, when you do a good job and you're recommended, you usually get recommended throughout the industry. And pretty soon, Janet had customers through HUD, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Bank of America, and so many different other customers that we just boomed all the way until 2012. And we were at the height in 2017, but Janet also knew that ride wasn't going to last forever.
Sure.
So we started looking, and we found notes. And we shifted over to the note industry and learned about the note industry. And it kind of dovetailed into what we were already doing, especially with due diligence and BPOs.
Sure.
So, BPOs became part of something that we do. We still do to this day.
Wow.
Actually, Jen's probably still working on a BPO right now. But we complete BPOs every single week. Sometimes they're listing BPOs for properties that we list, and sometimes they're fee-based BPOs. They're companies that pay us to do the BPOs. So we do those consistently, and we've been doing them for a great number of years. And they can be interesting for sure.
So this is the debate: is what's a good BPO versus a bad BPO?
We're jumping right into the fire.
Oh yeah,
BPO.
Let's
let's quickly, for those who may not know what a BPO is or have ordered them and never looked at them, right? Can you give a summary of what would they expect on a typical BPO?
Certainly. A BPO company will send out an order to an agent, and they will ask for the type of valuation that they want. Okay. Sometimes they'll reach out and they'll say, "We need a distressed property valuation." Sometimes they'll say, "We need a fair market valuation." we need it based on 120 days in the past, or, you can go back 6 months in the past. They'll tell you a lot of the parameters that they're looking for. So it's not like it's just a huge report and you got to try to narrow it all down. A lot of these BPO companies will give you the parameters that you need to stay within. And sometimes it's tough, sometimes it's not. Okay, it depends on how suburban or rural the property may be. You may have to exceed some of those parameters. But a good BPO versus a bad BPO, okay? One thing to remember is you're not just using a BPO to evaluate the number, the conclusion of the BPO agent, the value of the property, okay? Yes, that does make a huge difference to you, the person who's evaluating that property, but you should also be evaluating the BPO. Okay, look at it, see the proximity of the comps. Okay, are all the comps within 1/2 mile in a suburban area? Okay, if there's one or two of them that are like 5 miles out in a suburban area, you may want to just kind of give it another really solid look.
And why would it typically, why are some BPOs have that? Why would an agent go outside that area?
That's a great question. Sometimes, see, BPO companies have their own valuation softwares built into these things. Okay. And if it's something exceeds their tolerances, they might say, no, we can't use that one. Or their quality control people will kick it back and say, you took a double wide mobile home and compared it to a single family house. We can't do that.
Right.
Okay. We need you to find another suitable comp. So instead of going back in time, which is one of your parameters, you have to stay within 120. So the best thing to do is expand it out distance wise and try to keep it as close as you can so that you get a better indication of today's value. Okay. So you look at your proximity, to the comps. Are they fairly close? And I just touched on another piece right there just a minute ago. Okay. Look at the properties. What are they comparing it to? Okay. Are they ranch houses compared to ranch houses?
Right, true.
Okay. We've seen BPOs come through where ranch houses were compared to double wide mobile, manufactured homes.
Yeah.
Big red flag. Yeah. Huge red flag. Okay. If you see that, really question that BPO. Okay.
So we've seen it before. And people that are new maybe have not seen this yet, but we've seen that where a seller of a note will provide a BPO, right, and then I get my own BPO, and they're very different.
Yes.
How can that be? And we get into this argument of, well, my BPO is better and yours is better, but how do we reconcile that? Like, well, first of all, why? And then how do we reconcile that?
Okay. Well, when you get multiple BPOs and there's a wide range of valuations, okay, why? Look at the comps that they're comparing to. Is there an average condition house that is the subject? Are they comparing it and evaluating it off of nice rehabbed homes within a mile? Okay. Now you've got a difference of condition. Move-in ready versus average condition. You're going to have an inflated value. Yeah. Now look at the other one. Maybe another BPO has average condition comps versus the average condition subject. Now you're looking at more of a tighter valuation. I'm not saying you're pinpoint, but you're at a tighter valuation because you're comparing apples to apples instead of apples to oranges.
So in the case where they're comparing it to a fair market, is that because that's just what the agent chose, or was that an instruction that they received?
Typically it's an instruction. Yeah. Okay. At the beginning of the instructions, there's an instruction sheet that they send, and it's basically states, if the property area is being driven by REO or distressed properties, then let's use distressed properties. But if it's a fair market area where most of the transactions are being done in a fair market way with arm's length transactions, then start using those fair market comps.
Yeah.
But if you have to use REO, explain why.
Hmm.
Okay. Is the property in lousy condition? Well, some REO properties might be in similar condition. So you might want to use those
Sure.
to compare to the property.
So one of the first things I do when I get a BPO is I throw down to the pictures. I want to see the property. I want to
Yep.
see, and I look at the comments the agent often puts inside of them, right?
Right.
Now, these are typically ones that the sellers provide to me to kind of get a feel.
Mhm.
Because I know when we worked at the hedge fund, we ordered multiple BPOs for the same property, may order two, one from different companies.
Right.
And we usually ordered a selling BPO too. So when we want to boost the value of the property to the end note buyer,
Exactly.
we had a high BPO that was, and most people didn't bother to order one because they didn't want to spend the money to buy a BPO. They want to use the one I have, and kind of find out that value may be wrong.
Right.
Is there a way when you look at these BPOs that you can, without diving too deep, know the quality of the person behind it versus somebody who went there, took 4 pictures of the property, pulled a quick AVM from their system and did nothing else and spent 4 minutes on the project? And rightfully so.
Yeah.
Well, this is my part B question, but answers first. The BPO cost me $100. On average, how much is the agent who's doing all this work that we depend on making of that $100?
Oh man, I'm telling you, this is a sore spot in the industry. Okay. Typically anywhere between $40 and $65 is typically what the BPO agent will be doing. And some folks are, they run a operation based on that. They'll do BPOs and just large numbers of them. Okay. And that's going to be a copy and paste and just throw it in there and let it go. What you were just talking about, Dave, is the comments. This is how you can tell whether an agent has put some time into the BPO. Look at the comments. How in depth are they? Okay. If you've got the same exact comments in 10 different fields of that BPO, it was just a copy and paste and hurry, hurry, hurry. But if you've got comments in, like comp 1 is inferior due to gross living area, smaller garage and smaller lot size, I adjusted, $6,000 for this. Okay. That's more of a detailed comment in there. And that they put in some time and effort into doing the research and coming up with a really good, valid conclusion versus just spitballing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I one of the things that I do a lot of the time, especially if it's a BPO that was provided by the seller, is I'll take that BPO and I'll compare it. First of all, I'll compare it to whatever online research that I've done. If we're way far off, already that's a red flag.
Yes.
Even if they're close though, a lot of the time, probably maybe not always, but a lot of the time, depending on what the numbers are and how comfortable I am with the spread, all those kinds of things. But I will call whoever did the report and I say right up front, I'm not trying to sway you one way or another. I'm just looking for accuracy. So can you just tell me about the property? Yeah. Tell me about the neighborhood, how stuff's selling, and get.
Most investors don't know they could do that. On the BPO shows the agent's name. Call them up, ask them questions.
Sure. And everybody's got Google. So even if you don't really want to call that agent, maybe you're not comfortable doing so, call another real estate company in that area. Pick up the phone. Find somebody who's been
some new tricks that we're talking online. But for the BPO, those people, you have your solds on top, your for sales, you have your solds, right? I really don't care about the for sales unless something's changing in the area. I don't care what someone wants for the house. I care about what is, and I focus things like the area, square footage, right? GLA. I look at the fact of, the bedrooms, bathrooms. I don't care how many rooms it has. I look at those kind of big things. And if I see a 3-1, when I have a 3-3 or 4-2, I kind of diminish it because I don't know how much a bathroom in that area is worth. Another thing I look at is if that agent's not from the area. That's a big thing to me. Unless an agent's good and they drove 40 minutes to a property, I may be interested. But if they're a BPO quote unquote typical BPO agent who's just making 40 bucks a kick and don't know anything about real estate.
Yeah.
I feel from my point of view, if the agent isn't local to property, they're not going to know much about the area.
Yeah.
Right. Then you're getting a BPO based strictly on data, strictly.
Yeah.
And that is market dependent. Okay. It doesn't say anything about the agent being able to choose different comps.
Mhm.
Okay. It basically, they're just grabbing data saying, okay, based on this data, this is what the valuation should be. Well, they don't have enough variables in there that they're taking into consideration to be able to adjust those comps to the right ones, which will give you a tighter valuation.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like, I'm sorry if I lost somebody there, but it's, it really does mean a lot when somebody, like you're saying, Dave, is from the area and knows that market.
Yeah.
One of the other things I find is, if I call, another one of the red flag items is if I call and I end up leaving a message and then they never call me back.
Yeah.
Huge red flag. Then I need somebody that I can talk to. I need somebody that has seen the property that I can have a discussion.
Like you said, Mick, there are factories of BPO agents that their full-time job is go out, do 4 a day, 5 a day, 6 a day, make the money, give the broker some of the money, right? Because in your situation, you're the broker and the BPO. If you had a BPO person below you, what would that BPO person make, you think?
Well, typically, it all depends on what the income is, because if we were agents, say, signed on to a Keller Williams or a Wykert franchise, okay, those checks would be made out to the company.
Correct.
Okay. And then typically it all depends on what the split is that you agree to with your broker. I mean, sometimes it's a 70-30 split. Sometimes it's a 90-10, it all depends on
between 25, maybe 40 bucks.
Yeah. Yeah. $35, $40, and the funny thing is when Janet started doing this, she was with a small local company, and she told the broker what she was doing, and he kind of laughed at her and said, you just keep all of it, don't worry about it. Well, little did he know that she was going to be doing hundreds of them a year. So
nice, good for her.
Yeah.
We depend on these BPOs to give us a property value from people who may know real estate, but most likely you've been in the REO development. Are most of these BPO agents investors, knowledge about real estate, or are they plug and play people? Which, from what you've talked to, what are majority of people there?
A lot of the people that we've run into who actually are BPO agents are real estate agents who are filling out the forms. Okay. And I would say this is probably 70-30 split. Okay. There are folks who have seen BPOs as an income source, something that they can do while they're slow or not showing properties, because, you can accept or decline them. You don't have to take them. So when you're slow, you can accept BPOs. If you're not slow and you're out, ramming the roads and taking buyers or sellers around, then you don't have to take them.
Sure.
Whereas I know a lot of REO agents, and we may have some on the line today. I know a lot of REO agents take it very seriously, take it as a bolt-on to their business, but realize that the quality of the BPO going out is going to be reaching some of these folks who are making decisions. And if your name and your number are on those BPOs, it's a possibility they might pick up the phone like they did with Janet and say, hey, you know what? We've seen a lot of your BPOs come through. Can you handle the REOs for us?
Yeah. And that's a flip side of where, the argument is, like Nathan says, go back to the seller and say, you're valued way off.
Yeah.
And it's like, here's my BPO. And it's like a battle of the BPOs, right? As most people know, I do my darndest not to order BPO unless I direly need to. And that's because I don't have anyone in a local area. A lot of parts of Texas are very rural. And it's real hard for me to get agents down there, but
Yeah.
so let's flip it for a second.
Sure.
You're a note investor.
Mhm.
Would you, percentage wise, how often would you trust ordering a BPO? And is there an alternative way, say, to find out a value, a knowledge about the property area that may be different from ordering a BPO that may be more successful?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing is sometimes I'll order a BPO if it's in a suburban area. Okay. Because I think as we were talking about earlier, you get out in the country and you get out in the woods, your comps might be 20, 25 miles away.
Mhm.
Okay. Some of the comps might be across a river. Some of those larger border type things will affect evaluation.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm in a suburban or an urban area where I know that there's going to be comps within half a mile or 5 blocks, heck yeah. If I need a good solid pinpoint valuation, then I'll do it. But the other way around is if I've got a 2-year-old BPO that says it's worth $100,000, and I'm not real worried about it because that note I'm investing in has a price point of 20,000. That thing could fall 50% and I still wouldn't be worried.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it all depends on what you're looking to buy, what the valuation is, and what your investment is to the value. The higher the investment to value, the more I'm going to really consider getting a BPO.
So in that case, if it's an older BPO, and like you say, there's a giant spread, and I've certainly seen those. In that case, I'll take it, but I'll still call that agent and just let them know what I'm doing, first of all, because I would
certainly.
It's somebody that I can use potentially.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Lean on real estate
Absolutely.
Professionals, heck,
Good ones have all kinds of contacts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And one little trick that you can do, okay. I don't know if you know where hudhomestore.com is. It's a HUD property, the government HUD.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they list their properties for sale. Okay.
Sure.
If you're in a suburban or, a fairly populated area, look on the HUD Home Store and see if somebody is a listing agent for HUD. Give them a call and say, hey, if I'm looking at this property in this area, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. If it was in REO condition, it doesn't have to be great. Do you see this going for $88,000? And typically they'll tell you yes or no, because they're probably pretty experienced in that area.
So Ivory Hill comment, I sent it to Nathan, and it's a little bit lengthy. Ivory, I appreciate you chiming in here. They said he did his master's in the subject of BPOs, and that even though an agent may get the order, they may send to the assistant depending on the fee, right? And that the quality report ends up being determined how much that money is going to be. That he had worked for, I guess, some kind of government agency, and that they would not, most of his work was for courts, and the district would not allow BPOs to be used at all. And I guess it's because of the history of it, of BPOs being sometimes fine, sometimes not. In court, you need factual all the time. And that's one of the things I stressed on, is that I know HUD very well. And what we used to do is we used to go to Zillow too and find REO agents who listed a house for a bank and get their information, which is why I went through that process of saying, okay, how can I collect all this data and compile and then put it into the portal? Like if you're looking for an agent, you can put 15 properties and every agent that pops up is an REO agent, because REO agents typically are not doing BPOs. Some are, some aren't, right? But those agents have a real estate knowledge and a directory of contacts, trash cleanouts, I mean, like that BPO agent would never have, or wouldn't bother even to take the next step. REO agents typically want to get on the phone with you and just talk for a minute. And the great thing about it is you don't got to explain to them what you're doing, because most likely they already know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And they could be a huge resource for you.
Yes.
Okay. Typically an REO agent will know about whether the county or the municipality needs vacant property registration or, maintenance and upkeep on the sidewalks in the snow, things like that. Okay. Those REO agents will be familiar with that stuff. Whereas, I'm down here in South Carolina. I'm in Charleston. I deal with snow once, maybe every 3 years. Okay. Whereas Chicago, if you've got a property and you don't shovel the snow there, you might be looking at a fine. Who knows?
Additional fines in Chicago? No.
No, can't happen.
The other trick I've done, making, tell me if you would do the same thing, is looking at other real estate investors, right? Reaching out to an investor local to the property and saying, hey, can you give me help? May they not be able to give you factual data, but they would give you some local knowledge, like, hey, that's on the other side of the tracks, or that's near a really good area. There's a pocket of area that's really good. That's inside that area. That's a golden ticket. Don't worry about the comps, because those 4 streets at a property in Trenton, New Jersey are amazingly golden for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And that local investor, you can kind of get knowledge of it that you would never get in a BPO.
Sure. Demographics is a solid key. As far as asking a real estate investor, what the valuation may be, I'm not sure I would go that far with an investor, but I would definitely ask them, hey, is this a gentrifying area? Is this a place where, people are going in, buying up properties, rehabbing them and flipping them or reselling them? That will give you an indicator of whether it's a good, strong demand in that area, or if it's just something that maybe you ought to stay away from because, there's not a lot of spread there.
Yeah. So it's amazing that we trust these BPOs to be golden, but there's so many holes in it that it depends on that agent.
Yes.
If you were to find an REO agent that you trusted, would you prefer to talk to them directly or order a BPO to get second opinion?
I definitely talk to the REO agent that's comfortable with that area.
Yeah.
And ask them right from the horse's mouth, because again, you don't know whether you're getting a brand new a BPO agent.
Yep.
Because there are people who sign up for these BPO services and they may have been doing them for 3 months.
Or they're an assistant that's just trying to learn, like, hey, just go ahead and do these things. Run AVM, take a couple pictures, and we'll pay you some money.
Right, exactly. Or maybe there's somebody who says, hey, you know what? I'm just going to look at the tax records and see what their appraised value is, and I'll bring in the comps around there.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work that way. You can't really
having
do
that conversation is really key. I found both ends of the spectrum. I've had BPO agents that were REO agents that were, well into their 60s and 70s that were wealth of knowledge and extreme experience. On the other end of that spectrum, I've had the 30-year-old, guy that's hungry and just is looking for business, and he'll go the extra mile because he's trying to prove himself. So I've had it all over the map. And so having that conversation is really, really important.
It really is. I mean, there's nothing like a good relationship with a agent with boots on the ground.
Yeah. It's amazing because they have not only they have the values they can tell you, but they also have the connections, which are huge, right?
Yeah.
And that's one thing I always surprised by people who are BPOs, because then you need more. You need more information. You're like, oh wait, I need to know. Thing like that. I'm curious too, when you are looking at these BPOs and working with the agents with that, are pictures different? Do you find that you take different pictures because you have an investor mindset versus other BPOs, or are pictures based on the order pretty much take a picture of the street label, take a picture of the house, take a picture of the roof kind of angle?
Right. No, they're very, very systematic. Okay. So it's a left side of the house, front, right side of the house, address verification, to street, street looking each way. Okay. And if there's something that needs to be seen, then you can add extra. Like, we just did one yesterday. Okay. Yeah. There's a substation within 300 feet of the house. And it's a big electrical substation, And the lot across the street had all kinds of what we call personal property and debris. Okay. Boats on trailers and just coolers and trash and stuff like that. That's a big issue, you know?
Yeah.
So you take a picture of that as well, because it affects the value or the perceived value of the property from the eyes of a buyer.
Yeah.
And I know, Mick, I've talked to you about before. My 2 steps is I reach out to all the investors I have local to a property based on the county. And I also reach out. I have my portal where I can find REO agents, and I email them, call them, whatever I can, get a hold of them, because I'd rather trust an REO who's busy and say, hey, listen, give me 30 seconds. What do you know about this area? And if you can fill out some more information later, great. But the REO agent's like, listen, don't go to this area. We can't get contractors. I mean, like, that's another piece of the puzzle where, like, you can't get solid contractors. I don't care how good the value of the property is. If you haven't doing work on it, you're kind of in a bad spot. Or it could be like, listen, there's a Walmart going down the street or a Boeing's moving in, right? And this property value is going to go up, FYI.
That's right.
One of the caveats that I ran into, and you have to be really careful when you do these phone calls, is that you just be careful how you word this stuff if you do call agents. I did run into a time where I called an agent and ended up being a sister-in-law of the borrower. So it was, but if I ordered BPO, she probably would have gotten it anyway, and it is what it is, right? But it was good intel, like, oh, that's my sister-in-law's house, that's my brother's house. What's going on? I'm like, listen, we don't know what's going on. We're just looking. And he says, oh, no, he lost his job and he just got a new one. He started working 2 weeks ago. They're probably gonna be catching up. Oh,
cool.
Good to know. Good to know.
Inside information.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it never hurts to pick up the phone, call, and talk to people.
Yeah.
It really does.
Are there times where in your job doing BPOs or even valuing properties that you find it extremely difficult, besides the strange properties, where it's just, you just can't value it well?
Yeah.
And what do you do then?
You do the very best you possibly can. And just remember what you're there for. Okay. Giving an evaluation based on like properties with like demands. Okay. I mean, it doesn't just have to look the same. All right. Some of the stuff that we keep into consideration is, you know, some people like an HOA and some people don't. They don't like subdivisions with HOAs. So if we're looking at a property without an HOA and there's not very many comps within that area, okay, we stay within the same county, same school district if possible, without an HOA. Okay. And we try to catch as many parameters as possible to try to identify the valuation based on some of the demands, like no HOA and within that school district.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, it can be very difficult sometimes. And, you know, I mean, when you hit a property with a double wide mobile home on 37 acres, okay. Now we're looking at a thing where we're going to have to do some adjustments.
Yeah. It's crazy. You know, it's amazing. Yeah. That we're doing. Yes, Nathan, sorry. I think for me, knowing what I know now, I'd rather work with an REO agent and an investor and get their mindset where things are. One of the ways we do it, we actually have a Facebook directory. Inside our portal, you can find other investors. Please don't blast email people. They're there to connect with people who live in a certain area, to network with them for note investing, if they live local to you, but also if they live local to a property, use that directory or post in a Facebook group, find people local to that property, and you're going to get information. They may know. I may reach out to, you know, Mick, and he's not an REO agent. He may say, listen, Dave, here's my value, but my buddy here is an agent. Let me call him up. He'll pull some comps local to the property, and you get better knowledge. Sure. And what you used to also get when you hook up with an investor, and if you have some relationship with them, they'll go out and take pictures and give you kind of a sense, because most investors live 10 minutes from the property. They can run out real quick and take a picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of these small towns, here's a little thing I learned from our mentor. Okay. He told us one time, if you're in a small town and you got really nobody to work with, call the fire department. call the fire department, because the guys right there at the fire department love to help people. They know the town very well. And chances are they're going to be driving by that property. Just have them snap a few pictures and tell them, hey, listen, I'll send 30, 40 bucks into your fireman's fund. You know, if you can just send me some snapshots of the condition of the property and just give me a little bit of information about the area.
Yeah.
They're usually pretty happy to do so. I did that in Marysville, Ohio, and the guy was just ecstatic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what would be your advice? You know, Mick does teach at Note School and stuff like that as well.
Mhm.
What would you give the advice to somebody who's starting out and getting these BPOs? What should they watch out for? What should they do? You know, they may not have the network we have,
Right.
but should they be looking at any part of that BPO, the notes, the pictures that really kind of tell them, listen, back off or jump on it, right?
Yeah. Use your common sense and logic. Okay. Great question, Dave. Great question. I mean, because that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of looking at a BPO. As I said before, you know, you're looking at a BPO to gauge your valuation, but you should also be evaluating that BPO to see if it's something that you can rely on.
Yeah.
Yes.
I look at a BPO as establishing bumpers, high and low. Okay. I'm not gonna get a pinpoint valuation, but I'm going to establish pretty much a high and low off this BPO. Okay. Look at your comps and what you're comparing to. You know, are you looking at a 2-story well-maintained home versus a single-story ranch? Okay. Sometimes that's acceptable. Sometimes it's not.
Mhm.
You know, again, you know, are you looking at a 3-story house versus a townhouse? No, you don't want to establish single family detached from single family attached. Make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Okay. Distance wise.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Are you within the same county or within the same school district? Things like that. Start looking at it. Look at the BPO as a whole, as all kinds of different data points that you can look at and say, okay, is this quality work? Or was this just slapped together to make 50 bucks?
Mhm.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
It's crazy you say that, but you know, looking at BPOs for hours, it gets mindless. And most time you can't
Again.
trust it because the information behind it and the money is not worth it, right? Because if you're making $25 and you're assisting, you're brand new, you're not putting a lot of work into this.
No.
You know, I count on the pictures to be my most important factor. If
That's
there's
right.
roof damage or the house looks like crapola or there's a car in the driveway, that
Right.
tells me this non-performer may have something there, right?
Right.
And get a hold of the agent. Find out if they did any kind of walking of the property at all, right? Did they take a peek at the backyard? Did they see any activity, right? Was someone mowing a lawn?
Right.
The car parked and running, you know? Those kind of things. To me, it's extremely important to know. Nathan, when you look at BPOs, what are some of are these some of the things you look at, or is anything you?
Yeah,
pick out that you
definitely.
look
I
at?
think the most important thing is probably the pictures. Probably the second thing that's most important is the comments.
Mhm.
That's the second thing that I'll go look at, and then I'll scroll back up
Yes.
closer to the top, and then I'll start looking at the comparables and see how
True.
the quality of the comps. Are they, you know, like we say, are they 25 miles out, or is this around the corner, you know, half a mile? And that makes a huge difference. And then
Absolutely.
again, what type of property is being compared, and I start looking at it like that, because you have to. And I get it. I totally get it. Like,
Yeah.
there are agents that are just doing this because they're bored and they need 50 bucks to go and buy dinner, or there's other ones that use it as a tool to get future listings. And I'm looking for the ones that are getting the future listings.
Sure.
So that's how I evaluate it. The last thing, I guess the first thing, because it's on the first page, I'll see that number and then I'll scroll through and then I'll come
You're
back.
really
and say,
looking
do I-
for that eyes on the ground.
Yeah.
The pictures, the eyes on the ground, comments, roof damage, whatever damage.
I'm not there and I'm not going to be there. So
Yes.
I need some information.
One thing, if I can recommend, Mick, if you can tell all these big BPO companies, please don't tell me what you think it is,
Yeah.
right? Just show me roof appears to have damage on it, right? It appears, don't tell me more than that. Like we often get like, well, this appears to be on, just show me the facts, let me determine that knowledge, right? It's so often that they go to the next step and it's like, listen, tell me what gave you that thought that the house looked, the house is not occupied. Well, why? What was it given, right? What was there that told you it was not occupied versus blanket? Roof looks damaged. That doesn't tell me anything. Like roof here on the left side appears to have a hole in it. Okay, let me determine if there's a problem with it.
Yeah.
And we'll call Bobby Quinn and do a flyover, but
right.
Drone.
In the beginning, it used to give me great anxiety to hear an agent say, "Oh, it's in rough shape," and I would go, "Oh, shoot, that's terrible," And then as time gone on, I'm like, "Well, what does rough shape mean?" Rough shape to one person is nothing to another, and vice versa. So. Again, I'm looking for the facts. I don't care about your opinion necessarily. I know it's called the broker's price opinion, but just tell me the facts and I'll determine how rough is rough.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's amazing how many photos we get back. It's a rough shape.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No, you don't know rough.
No. Especially that REO agent has done well for themselves and live in a nice house and they go to like a little $20,000 house, like this is in rough shape. Like, no, it's typical for the area, right?
Yeah, that's right on par, actually. Yeah.
And I've used most of the agents. What I do in my system is I go to my portal, I put my address in, I get a hold of the agent, I get the value. I'll often then pay them to go out and look at the property. That's my payment to them. That I typically don't charge. They don't get money for the quick value. Give me your local knowledge. Give me your ballpark figures. Is it a good area? Is it on the right side of the tracks? Give me some knowledge. I'll pay you to go out and look at the property. And then I'll tell them, listen, if and when I take this property back, I'm going to be calling you to be my leverage to sell it, to rekey it, whatever. Even I've also used my agents to drop off paperwork to borrowers. Hey, can you reach out to the borrower and talk to them?
I've done that.
And they're knowledgeable. They understand the business. They're not BPO agents. They're not real estate agents. They're REO. They know the fact that banks do this.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
And they're willing to put in a little bit of work. Talk to a neighbor. Yeah. And they're willing to put in a little bit of work because they've got a long-term view. I don't want the guy that's thinking about today. I want the guy that's thinking about 3 months from now, 6 months from now.
Yeah. And REO agents will offer you, usually they're adept, very, very good at offering and negotiating with people for cash for keys or deed in lieu or any type of workout. We can typically help people with that. Sure. Just being boots on the ground, being able to sit at somebody's kitchen table and explain, hey, this is going to foreclosure. We're the last friend you have here in this process. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to dig in your heels and say, no, I absolutely refuse, well, you'll be walking out the door with the sheriff on each arm and you'll have nothing versus, $3,500 cash for keys to help you get a fresh start.
Sure.
So those are just the type of things
and all those things. Yep.
Exactly. It's a people business. It really is. It's a people person business.
Yeah. So just to recap, BPOs do work. I know I'm a bad person. I hate BPOs, but they do work. And, for people who are doing mass amounts of properties, I get it. BPOs are important to those people. Hedge funds need BPOs because they can't get what we do. But if you're looking to buy one or two properties, one of the best strategies, you can go to our portal, get REO agents, you go to Hud, get agents, go to Zillow, get agents, and don't reach out to one. You're going to have to reach out to more than one agent.
Right.
Email them, call them, reach out to them, and just what you want to ask them is, what is your knowledge of the local area? Where is this property at? Is it a tenant area? Is it a homeowner area? What is your thoughts about the area in general? I also asked for what is the average rehab value of the property if there's ARV on it. Also ask for rental. What would be the average rental for this area? And then lastly, any comments or whatever. And I actually have on my website a private site where I actually offer them to upload AVM, and I tell them I will reach out to you to get more clarity and to have some kind of fee for service for you to give me some more information and have a relationship. But it kind of weeds out those who may be busy, may not be interested. But these agents do more than just connect with us. They become our light set of that local eyes and ears on the ground. You never know what they can come up with being local.
Yeah,
Sure. And typically a agent like that will have a network of people who are looking to buy. So if you have a property there that, you just want to unload it, you bought the note real cheap, you got it through foreclosure and said, hey, you know what, I'd be willing to sell this to an investor at a wholesale price for 75 grand. Typically that agent will be able to identify a few investors in that area who will come up with cash.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, before we let you go, I just want to remind everyone, if you send the email, I'll put a post up hopefully before the day's over. September 20th, me and Nathan will be starting our junior mastermind group. I know Mick and I have talked densely on our weekly calls, but I hope those who are interested to jump into some of that. Nathan and I are doing this for a long time, but we'll also be bringing the content of stuff, right? These kind of things are really important to investors, and you can't overlook it and just depend on the seller's BPO. I'm going to tell you from a fund level, we've ordered multiple BPOs just to give our buyers a higher value to sell that property. So you really want to get your own value. You can pull your own comps and do all that stuff, but getting the eyes and ears on the ground in property condition is key to know what's going on, right? If that property is occupied and it's really in bad shape, do you want to get into that world? Because then you may be doing a rehab. Most likely that person can't even afford to modify. So if you're looking for a non-performing flip, there's probably some gamut there. And if it's vacant, that's a huge thing too. If there's a ton of mail sticking out of the mailbox, or a little trick, if you have good, look at the meter. If the meter's not running, it's probably not occupied.
Or if it's not there.
Yes, if it's not there. Yes. Or even a shut off ticket on in the water, right? Those are the kind of things an REO agent would do where a BPO agent typically won't do unless they're sophisticated and they know what they're doing. But again, they're not making a lot of money on this, on these $25 to $40, depending on the person.
Yeah. Due diligence can be an art.
Yes.
Definitely.
But I definitely, sorry, I'm distracted. I'm trying to see if we can get Ben on, but I'm not hearing back from him. So we're trying to get Ben on. Noteworthy again is to be the end of September 21st. I'll be flying in there 22nd, 23rd. I'll be talking. The day before, me and Nathan will be running our thing, and then Nathan will be in California. So if you're gonna be out in those kind of areas, please feel free to say hello. Mick, you're gonna be talking soon too, right? You're gonna be talking Note. Note. Are you speaking down in Dallas?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I thought you were. I apologize. Are you going to be doing anything publicly at any time soon?
I would love to get our note meet up type meetings around locally here again.
Awesome.
Get them started. We had some great success with them. And
where are you at? Just so the people who don't know where you're at, give a general.
Oh, we're in Charleston, South Carolina.
Nice.
And we're up in the North Charleston area. And if anybody wants to reach out to us, you can look up our website at ktifinancial.com. That's Kilo Tango Indian financial.com. And
if you have a property in the area, don't order a BPO, call Mick up, make connection, pay him some bucks, get a real value. I mean,
that's right.
It's what it is, and Janet's awesome too. Right.
You know it.
So
thanks so much.
I appreciate you coming on, spend some time with us this Friday afternoon. Hopefully you get better weather than me and Nathan getting up here. It's getting a little chilly up here. Put a long sleeve shirt on and whatnot. So I appreciate you jumping on for a little while and just chatting with us.
All right. My pleasure. Thank you guys. It's always great talking with you.
You bet. That was great.
You bet.
Person